broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Best Practices, Navigating Uncharted Territory with NYS and Transfinder coming together. We got a great panel today. We talk about the future of school transportation. So we're going to give people about a half a minute to file in, and then we'll get started. All right. Well, welcome, everybody. We have a great turnout for today's webinar. Again, it's Best Practices, Navigating Uncharted Territory, the Future of School Transportation, what to expect this spring, summer, and beyond. Before we get started, I want to welcome Transfinder President and CEO Antonio Civitella, who just celebrated a birthday yesterday. So if you see a balloon behind him, he's still in celebration mode. Tony, take it away.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Well, happy spring for sure. The crazy thing about it is I was, just last time we all got together, I was like, it's going to hit 40 degrees here in upstate New York, like 40 degrees. And I don't see the sun yet. I mean, I haven't been outside, but it's supposed to reach well in the mid 70s. Like, wow, it really is spring, and so much going on. And obviously, what does spring do? What does it do? It brings new life. Start seeing the plants, the tulips in our area that's budding. The grass going to start getting greener, and it's so appropriate that now we're seeing so much going on. The opening across the country, like the schools are going to be opening. There's such an awesome. I feel it. Everyone's optimistic about, and things are going to get better, and you know it. And so, but of course, there are going to be other challenges. And today's panelists are going to have some great. Was just listening to their pregame, right? Just they're getting ready here, and you could see there's going to be new challenges about a lot of things. Of course, the additional CARES Act that's coming in. We're going to be talking about a lot of these great topics, and I know it. And remember, we'd love to hear from you, so ask your questions because you guys are driving this, and this is such a big thing. Got to always big shout out to NYS and of course Executive Director Dave Christopher. Thank you always for partnering with us on these important webinars. And there's a balloon behind me, and yesterday was my birthday, but a year ago on March 24th was our very first webinar, and really these are such an important webinars of what we do here. And really it's really the communication is about what you guys are talking about. So we're not creating the communication, we're just creating a platform for all of us to talk and discuss and work things out, right? It's the FIO, figure it out, and I love it. And we've been doing this now for a year. I always reflect things on my birthday. I'm sure you guys do the same thing too. Maybe you're a year older, but you reflect back, and I can't stop thinking about how it was a full year ago. And so I'm so proud of the entire organization. Obviously, New York State is our backyard, but also across the country, and how everyone, all of you have stepped it up. So again, thank you. Couple little housekeeping. Last year we announced Stop Finder Communication. It's the parent app. Well, guess what? It's still free. So please, if you're interested, send us email to freestopfinder@transfinder.com. So get you started. And just another housekeeping item, these webinars, and we have so many best practices webinars off our transfinder.com homepage. These are all recorded, and maybe you want to go back and you want to see what we talked about a year ago, because it's interesting, right? The things we're talking about, and just even the tone, man, awesome. So much has happened in one full year. So again, thank you so much. Now I want to introduce the NYS Executive Director, Dave Christopher. Dave, how you doing?
Hello, Tony, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
I have to tell you, I've never seen such a large birthday cake as the one I saw the other day when I saw your picture. So congratulations on your birthday.
Well, it was a couple years ago. It was a huge cake. We had a 80s theme. It was an 80s theme, and it was just a great, and had a lot of friends and family with us, and wish we could have all of you guys with us. But maybe we'll have a huge birthday bash soon, so we all could see each other again. So
There you go. There you go.
Take it away.
Thank you for your partnership, Tony, in these webinars. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for a year, but you know, we do what we have to do in these difficult times, and I think they've done some good things for the industry. So thank you for your partnership, and let's move on to today's. I'm going to introduce first our steady and our regular panelist, Bill Harvey from the Honeoye Falls Lima School District. Welcome, Bill. We have a couple new people here today. Jason Callahan from the Amityville Union Free School District in Suffolk County. Welcome, Jason. And last but not least, we have Casey Foster from Birmingham City, Alabama, which I wanted to say something about, like Roll Tide, congratulations, but then I found out he's from Texas, and then I just realized that Houston is playing Syracuse University Friday night in the NCAA tournament. So I don't know, Casey, I can't root for you anymore. So, but welcome to the webinar.
Thank you.
Rick DeRico, our moderator, is with us as well, and there's Rick. Rick, I'll turn it over to you, and let's get down to it.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, panelists. I really appreciate David. Always appreciate talking with you, and Bill, Jason, Casey. We got a lot to get through. I want to start off by just a couple of things. We had an off-camera conversation not too long ago, and I think you guys can provide some perspective that people may have, some confusion people may have. So I want to start off, for starters, with the recent CDC guidelines that reduce social distancing from 6 feet to 3 feet. They released it last week, and for many, I have just a story coming out of Greece, New York, said it's welcome news for many parents and school officials, but it's also causing some confusion for school leaders because those guidelines don't align with those of New York State. And the agency said last week students can safely sit 3 feet apart with masks in class. That's opposed to 6 feet distancing that's been practiced this academic year. Social distancing is still being recommended 6 feet during sports, lunch, and other gatherings. Meanwhile, the state says it's in the process of updating its guidelines for schools to fully reopen. One superintendent, Kathy Grubman, Bill, you mentioned you know her, out of Greece Central School District, told an ABC affiliate, quote, "The way the New York State Department of Health guidance is written, it doesn't leave us with a lot of flexibility to open schools widely." And then she said, there is a disconnect. So I wanted to kind of just start off with that. But before we have you guys talk about that, I'd like you guys to talk about yourselves. So I'm going to start with Bill, Jason, go to Casey, and we'll close with David. Just give us a little bit about your title, your role there at the school, and give us a little bit of a sense of your school district. You know, how many students are you transporting, or something that kind of describes who you guys are. So Bill, we'll start with you, Jason, and Casey.
Great, thanks, Rick. Again, my name is Bill Harvey, Director of Transportation and Security for Honeoye Falls Lima School District. We're in southern Monroe County into Livingston County and Ontario County, covering about 140 square miles, transporting about 2,300 kids to 33 different schools. So somewhat of a small suburban, borderline rural district. I also serve as security director here, handling all the things that you can imagine go along with that. So, and I come with just a little more than a year's experience of running pupil transportation in a worldwide pandemic. So I got that going for me.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Jason, welcome. You're your first time on the panel.
Yes.
But not your last.
Okay. So first time, hopefully not the last time, Jason Callahan from the Amityville School District in Suffolk County, Long Island, New York. I'm coming with 8 months experience during a pandemic. So it's been a unique experience. I helped to coordinate the transportation of over 4,500 students with over 100 routes, vans, and large buses. So yes, it's been a unique experience thus far.
Excellent, excellent. You definitely, baptism by fire, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
And Casey, Birmingham City, what county is that in New York?
Yes, we're in upstate.
Yeah.
No, Casey Foster, Birmingham City Schools in Birmingham, Alabama. We have an enrollment of about 22,500 students. And I don't know what pandemic anybody's talking about.
We'll get back to that. And David.
I'm Dave Christopher, Executive Director of NIAPT, and we're a state association, New York State Association, and we're trying to support school transportation operations and directors in our state, and we're working hard at it in this pandemic era. I was a school transportation director for many years and thought I had seen it all, but you learn something new every day. So this is quite the experience for all of us.
I just want to give Dave a shout out. He doesn't know I'm going to say this, but I in my career as a journalist, but also here at Transfinder, I work with a lot of different leaders. Obviously, I work for a great leader, Tony. I'm not just saying that because he's on. Dave, you are very calm and cool as a cucumber of a leader, and I just wanted to just say that I think this has definitely tested your mettle, and you have come through with flying colors for my 2 cents worth. And I just wanted to just give you a shout out because you really have been an exceptional leader during this tough time. So I wanted to just jump into the pandemic, and if somebody can inform Casey, maybe Jason, and my screen, you're next to, maybe you could whisper in his ear that there's a pandemic going on. But has the CDC guidelines, does this change anything for you? People might be watching our webinar now just wondering, oh, great. This is going to change transportation. This is going to change things in our school, or does it not? Can you give me a sense? And I'll start with you, Bill, because I know you always have an answer for something. And then others, feel free to piggyback on what Bill has to say.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. So the CDC recommendations that come out now, they talk about the 3-foot social distancing and the fact that if you cannot maintain the 3-foot social distancing, that you would rely on cohorting the parties, and which is something we currently do. So, in our district right now, we're not in transportation. We're loading to 2/3 capacity, not to exceed. So, in most instances, we are not maintaining the 6-foot social distance, and but we are, masking, assigned seats, cohorted, taking attendance daily, AM and PM. So, that allows us to do what we're doing at the 6-foot. And really, the 3-foot doesn't change a lot. We've been on some calls across New York State. People are talking about, 3-foot and bringing all the kids back to school and rerouting their buses to put more kids on them. But if you put 2 kids to a seat, you're not at 3 feet apart. So, however, as long as you do all the things I just said, that would be acceptable. But we go nowhere until the New York State Department of Health and Department of Education adopt or modify their guidance to be consistent with the CDC. And there's people, looking that over, I'm sure, right now in Albany. But that is a holdup right now for us. That's our barrier, is that CDC says we can do one thing, New York State says we can do another, and we really need to follow the state guidance.
The same thing, just to piggyback off what Bill is saying, we're not changing anything right now. We are keeping it with the cohorts. We've done that from the beginning of the year. Our buses are filled to less than 50% capacity, and we continue to try to adhere to that. And we're not going to move the needle until, like Bill says, until the state gives us more direction. And right now, we haven't had a lot of cases where we have to be alarmed in terms of, transmission of the COVID-19. So right now, we're going to stay where we're at, mask up, the windows open with the school buses, keep 1 seat empty behind the school bus driver, every other seat for 1 child, unless you live in the same home or are siblings, and we continue to move along with that.
Are your drivers wearing masks?
Yes. And we are providing PPEs for our drivers as well as our students.
Right. One of the things I'm sorry, go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, in Alabama, at least in Birmingham City, we were doing a blended model where we had AB schedules Monday and Tuesday, and then cleaning was, or sanitizing was on Wednesdays. Thursdays and Fridays, we had B students come in. We were doing no more than 14 students per bus on all of our routes. Beginning on April the 5th, we are going to the 3-foot social distancing. We're increasing to 24 students per bus, and we are ceasing doing the blended model.
So what is that 24 students per bus? Is that two, that would be one child per seat per row?
Yeah,
or
we have
two per
70.
row?
Correct. We have 72 passenger buses that we operate.
Yeah.
Is
I wanna
the
make-
mask
by the way-
mandated, Casey?
I'm sorry?
Are masks mandated?
Yes. And we also have spare masks on our bus, the spare paper masks for anyone that shows up that doesn't have one.
That's great. One thing I want to highlight, there's two things I need to highlight. One is, while we can't hear you or attendees, you can definitely have your voice heard by putting a comment or a question in the field that's provided, and we get to those as quickly as we can. So if you do have any kind of question, please put it in that section there. And the other thing is, if you're wondering why Casey's a part of this, we have noticed over all these many months that we've been doing these webinars that people from all over the country are in on these webinars. So this, while New York definitely was ground zero in much of this the pandemic early on, and people do look to us. We believe that the topics that we're covering and the issues we're discussing resonate across the country.
Yeah.
So I want to get to turning a little bit to the budget, but anything else that you guys are doing differently since the last time we've talked, Bill? Anything that's I mean, in terms of, we've talked about cleaning the buses. We've talked about things that even after the pandemic are going to stay in place because there's still some good, we talk about best practices. These are still best practices. Anything else that maybe any new nuances that we haven't discussed?
Well, I think that, as you said, we talked about cleaning and disinfecting and any changes, and what we came up with here and is just to stay the course. And I know I heard Casey was on the STN podcast, I think it was a week or so ago, and I was happy to hear Casey say they disinfect their buses in Alabama in his district twice, per day. So he's one of the only other operators I've heard of that are doing that, and we're doing that. And I began to question if it was overkill. And meeting with my team here, we discussed it, and we said, if it's ain't broke, don't fix it. It's working. We're not having spread on our buses. We're hauling more kids than most people are, so it's appropriate that we take the extra steps. We are already picking through and deciding what we hold on to going into next year. And I told my staff just this morning that, we're still going to be in a pandemic in September. With any luck, we'll have 3-foot social distancing. We get everybody, all kids, back to school every day. And but a lot of this is staying with us. We're not going to, we won't flip a switch and it's going to be over. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I think one of the issues, and Bill, you can chime in, is that we've had long discussions on this, is there's a lot of school districts that are very, school transportation operators who are very concerned about change in policies that allow more kids to come back to school, thus riding buses, when their policies, their plans were 1 student per seat, or, they have very limited numbers of students on the buses, and they're struggling trying to figure out, how can I put more kids on the buses when my plan says 1 student per seat. So I think that's an issue that, a lot of school districts are struggling with. And we've talked about this in a couple chapter meetings in terms of your need to, if you're going to change your plan, you're going to change your policy to make sure, obviously your superintendent board need to make that decision. But if you're going to upload your buses to higher numbers, then certainly you need to advertise that around your community so people know that that's your new plan. And I think, Bill, you've done that, or some schools that have done that as well?
well, we haven't done it because we haven't changed our plan. We did change our plan once mid-year. We did a plan review right before the holidays. And we said, if there's anything in here that we're not doing or we ought to be doing that's not listed, let's get it updated. And we did that, and we shared it out with the community, and then forwarded it to the state. So, as Jason said, until the state gives us further guidance, we stay the course, right? So
Right.
I sent in a plan that's very different than Casey's or Jason's. On the buses, I covered probably all the same things that Jason did with his New York State required back to school plan. accept the capacity. I said I would not exceed 2/3 capacity, and we sent it in, and we didn't get denied, if you will. So we've been a bit of an experiment. We've had a lot of people calling us to say, if you had any transmission student to student or student to driver, driver to student, and I'm pleased and proud to say that we haven't. We've had 0 transmission attributed to the bus, so we are doing it safely, and it is working. But we have to wait for further guidance. And we would all love, right? I don't know how Casey, how it is in Alabama, but I can assure you that Jason and I and Dave and others in transportation in New York would welcome clearer, more concise guidance.
Definitely. And also too, you know, I don't know, I think Casey may have mentioned it about having, you know, meetings afterwards or meetings towards the, you know, September. And I think it's important that we, you know, we keep all of this information and material, because right now we're dealing with evidence-driven data. So with evidence-driven data, we're going to have to present this again. Like you said, the pandemic will not be over. So with this evidence-driven data, you know, and continue with best practices and, you know, keeping those things that continually work, that'll make sense, you know, to move forward, especially in September, if the states decide to go with, we're getting away from remote learning and coming into school 5 days a week.
And it was actually Bill that was talking about doing that in September. I want to give credit where credit is due.
Right.
What we have done in Alabama is the state basically said it's up to each school system to develop their own plan. And so we in Birmingham have decided that we're going to follow CDC guidelines. The state has given input, but we are following CDC guidelines. And so it's been a little easier for us, I think, to pivot in that respect.
Very well. It sounds like your communities really trust you. I mean, it sounds like there's, you know, in the beginning, there was a sense, I think, that either parents are going to keep their kids home, or then they were I'm going to drive my kid to school. But now it sounds like, and that's a kudos to you, that they feel comfortable with what you've been doing. I wanted to, real quick before I forget, John, in our comment section here, says they clean and disinfect after every run 2 to 3 times each day. So I think that piggybacks to what you guys are talking about, that people are feeling like you're doing all you can. And so, like you said, Bill, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep doing what's working. But are you feeling, how do you communicate with parents to keep them in the loop when there are these changing conditions, and to keep them feeling as, you know, like, I don't know, they're feeling like they're part of the process? Feel free to jump in on that as well.
Go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, Rick, I think all of us, you know, not just those of us on the panel, but all of us in the industry and all of our teams, from the office staff to our drivers and our monitors, I think we've done a great job. I couldn't be prouder of my team. We have earned that trust. We have shown people that we are worthy of that trust. So I think that's super important. And, you know, we continue to communicate. Right now, like the superintendent's a point person, and he shares, we get weekly updates that go out to the community, and we've started shifting to video updates, and that's very handy, and it's very well received by the community, because I think people are tired of reading long emails. So we have an email ready to go right now to invite people back onto the bus at the 7 through 12 grade levels, if indeed New York State modifies and adopts the 7 through 12, or the 5-foot social distancing, 3-foot social distancing. At that point in time, we would invite more students back on the bus, because our biggest problem is going to be traffic and parents. Right now we have, as Casey talked about, like an A and B subset, but if we bring them all on the same day with all the parents that are driving, it's going to be a real problem for us. So email communication with the parents has been our mode of operation.
Our superintendent has done a great job with sending out multiple robocalls during the week. If there were any changes, we use our website. We have parents go to our website, where you will see the reopening plan in detail and updated emails and letters. And then we have, you know, parents that we talk to over the phone, just good old-fashioned customer service. and like Bill said, earning their trust. You know, they want to feel at ease. They want to feel like their kids are going to school and they're being safe. You know, they have anxieties just like the rest of us. And so, you know, good old fashioned phone calls and communication with the parents, and of course our school bus companies who are doing an excellent job with communicating with us and back to them, and with our administration. So it's just, you know, customer service, keeping people at ease, you know, so that their anxieties are lowered, and then helping them so that if we do have to move forward, you know, then they will be more comfortable.
It's great. Peace of mind is one of the, I'm sorry. We talk about peace of mind all the time, and, you know, that's what everybody wants more than anything else, is to know that you've done all you can possibly do, and that we can't control every variable, but as long as I can say I've done all that I can do. David, were you getting ready to say something?
I think it was Casey.
Yeah,
I
Casey.
was. And similar to Bill and Jason, we've been doing the email blast and all of that. But something that we've been doing in Birmingham is the superintendent has been doing town hall meetings via Zoom, and the parents have been able to have direct communication and input, and we've shaped our plans around the parent input. And the town hall meetings via Zoom has been great.
That's outstanding. I want to go to a couple comments here and then one question. Let's see. Amanda mentions that they also disinfect after every run, so just more confirmation that that's a great thing to do. Joseph talks about they've been having 2 students per seat for elementary school since September, maximum 44 per bus, and have not had a single transmission due to the bus. And they're in the process of bringing in the secondary schools to 5 days a week. So that's just a process there. And then Amanda also mentions that they're preparing routes right now to open full capacity in April. So that's just a few days away if they get permission from the state. So just more developments on that. Now the question is not completely related to this, but are any of you experiencing a driver shortage? And if so, how are you dealing with that? It's the perpetual question. We probably will never get through a webinar without mentioning driver shortage, unfortunately. But anybody having one, and if you are, what are you doing to deal with it? That's by John, by the way. This question.
Well, we're
Roger asked a question. Go ahead, Jason.
We're combining routes. You know, if there's a driver shortage, I mean, there's always a driver shortage. Let's just start off with that. So now we have a more, Bill knows, we have a more extreme driver shortage because of COVID-19. We have, you know, implemented combining routes, and it's a lot easier with the cohorts. Now, what happens when everybody goes back to school is going to be a major challenge, but with the cohorts, it's been easier because there are not that many students on the bus. So we've been combining routes. I think maybe 1 or 2 times we've actually had to do shuttles. In other words, school gets dismissed, there's too many kids on the bus to combine. That same bus may have to double back and may make other schools late, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. But we haven't had a lot of that, but we have combined buses that were already light.
Very good.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Casey, you want to go ahead? You have anything to add to that?
Well, you listen to the STN podcast, so I am sitting in a very unique position nationwide. I am 2 drivers short. That's it. We were 43 drivers short 2 years ago, and we've actually had an influx of drivers during the pandemic. We're sitting in a very unique situation. Now, we do have individuals that, due to COVID exposure, are having to quarantine, and then that creates a temporary shortage, and we're doing the same things where we're doubling up routes and so forth. But we don't experience a shortage right now.
What did you do to address that shortage initially, Casey? Did you do anything specifically?
Driver appreciation. We started an Employee of the Month and an Employee of the Year program. We use Samsara GPS, which gives us a driver scorecard. And whenever the driver logs in every morning to do their pre-trip inspection on Samsara, it tells them what their rank is compared to everyone else. Everyone is the best in their own mind, and they want to be the best, so they need to prove that they're the best. and this is a way to rank it and that they see it. It is based on their own behavior driving, and our employee of the month is based off of driver score and attendance and punctuality. We're going to be adding another component into that, which is on-time percentages. Again, making those data-driven decisions to where it's not a subjective, I like this person or don't like this person. It's all data-driven. Nice. So that's what the employee of the month is based off of, and then the employee of the year is chosen out of those employees of the month. And then just little things, at least it's little things in my opinion. It's just being a good human and caring about people. Myself and my assistant, we visit people in the hospital. We call and we check on them. We attend funerals. We're truly involved in their lives. This past Friday, I happened to be out on a call for a situation that happened on one of the routes. And on my way home, I received a call that one of my employees had been in an accident in their personal car. And I deviated my route and I went over there to assist my employee and her daughter. Wow. It's just caring about your employees, and that they see that. And then instead of us trying to figure out how we're going to get more applicants in the door, now the employees are going out and getting our applicants for us, and we have a better crop of applicants. It's great. It's been a great roller coaster.
I'll never forget, when you show up at the scene of a situation like that, when you're feeling really low, and then you see, I mean, that speaks volumes. They will take a hill for you.
Yeah, good stuff.
But anybody else, let's talk about morale for a little bit. Those are great. What Casey's already shared. Anybody else have things that you do that helps? And you've had to up your game, I'm sure, and keeping drivers, upbeat. What are you guys, Jason? You got anything that comes to mind that you guys have been doing?
Well, I haven't had direct contact with a lot of the drivers because they're contractors, but I can tell you that their safety team and their administrators with education are doing an excellent job to keep their drivers motivated. I actually know, in this industry, you get to know a lot of people. So I actually know a lot of the drivers that drive for our district. And so I know it's tough on them, but they're our go-tos, and they're self-motivating a lot of times, but the bus company has done a great job in helping to, boost their morale, and you can tell by, I can tell by the incident reports that they write, where their frustrations are and where they're motivated. And also, again, there's not that many incidents. There's not that many, driver frustration incidents where they may have said something or done something that was, inappropriate. That's like almost zero. So you can tell that our drivers and our bus monitors and bus attendants are really doing a professional job when it comes to transporting our precious cargo.
That's great. Go ahead.
We've been, it's tough when talking to our drivers about the situation and some of the things that they like about the job. We talk about bridgers, the people that retire early, but they want a little something to do, so they're going to work for 3, 4, 5 years driving bus, and what needs they have that are met by that job. And one of those needs is the social interaction. Like, they come in here 45 minutes before the route goes out, they're in the driver's room, the news is on, they're having coffee, visiting. And he said it just feels weird that we can't do that. You have to come in and go to the bus. So the job has changed so much in that respect, and that they're really looking forward to when we can have that, that cohesive family feel. We haven't shared a meal, which is what I'm big on, like at the holidays and everything. So we haven't been able to do that other than at our start off in August. So every year we do a driver of the year, employee of the year. So it could be a driver, monitor, mechanic. And, this year we're going to take a superintendent's in-service day at the end of April, and we're going to make it like we're going to break into teams. We're going to have a little team building. We're going to play some games. We're going to cook out,
awesome.
have some words. And I think everybody's a winner this year, right? I mean, these people need to be thanked because we've only been able to do what we've done because of them. They are truly in the front line every day. And I'm going to get some T-shirts and that commemorate the year, if you will, and their contribution. So I think morale is super important. And I think that, I think I have a lot of people, at least like in my community, we're all different, but in mine, I have a lot of people that do this job that don't need to. They do it for the enjoyment. So we have to work hard to recognize that and make sure that they stay fulfilled, if you will.
That's great. Well, and then
Interesting comments. If I could jump in here, Rick, we just, NIAP just partnered with a PhD candidate to do a statewide survey on directly to school bus drivers in terms of why do they want to be school bus drivers, what keeps them in the seat continuing to drive school bus drivers. And the thought is we're going to hear a lot of things similar to what you three gentlemen just shared with us, that it's not all about the money. And as transportation professionals, managers, leaders, we need to understand that and look at how we're doing things in an effort to maybe help this shortage, because it really, there are other things affecting that, right? There's a greater home delivery now going on that can attract drivers, more difficult to get licenses, et cetera. But I think a lot of it has to do with the atmosphere we provide as leaders.
Yeah.
And
I share one other thing, Rick, if I could. Just an interesting statistic, and I would be interested in hearing this from other districts, but I figured it out the other day, and we've lost a little over 20% of our staff, and that includes bus monitors, mechanics, and drivers altogether. Since this started on March 13th last year, we've got a little over 20% staff that have left for one reason or another. And we've replaced that with less than 10%. We're like 8 or 9% replacement, right? And I don't have any further like candidates for driving. So that kind of highlights where we're at and some of the problems that we're facing these days.
And Bill was talking about, front line. I'm not sure what happened in New York, but much of the school year, we weren't even operating. We were completely shut down because of community spread. And so the bus drivers were out delivering meals to community sites. And you want to talk about being on the front line, the CMP workers and the bus drivers were being asked to interact with the public while the instruction was all happening in a virtual environment. And that also created challenges because a lot of bus drivers have jobs in the middle of the day, or they have other things that are taking place in the middle of the day that creates a challenge for them to be able to continue to work that 4 or 5 hours a day whenever all of a sudden it shifts to between 11 and 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was part of a program before I came to Amityville where we had not only to deliver meals, we had our contractors delivering school supplies, and technology, and like you said, dealing with the public directly, and then figuring out, do you leave the equipment and the food on the doorstep? How is it stored? How is it going to be, delivered on the buses? And that was quite a few school districts doing that and coordinating that. And we're, like you said, we're virtually operating from home to coordinate all of this at the same time, which was scary, because you're like, did they make it? Did they not make it? How are the drivers doing? Who's going to drive? How many contractors are involved? So it was definitely a challenge for us, but we saw it through.
I think that what I take away from you guys is is that compassion, having that heart to realize that there's human beings involved in this and they have their own emotions. I was thinking about, so my wife is involved. She's the children's director at our church. So she kind of coordinates all the nursery situation, which is, we have a fairly decent sized church, not by Alabama standards, I'm sure, but by New York standards. And so people sometimes, their parents, and they will call, who are going to be actually working in the nursery, and their kid is sick, and so they can't come into church. And she'll get a call like a half an hour before church. And I hear my wife on the phone, and she is so sweet, and just, I hope your child feels better. I'm thinking, man, they just called you 15 minutes, but she is so, because she deals with them as human beings. And Bill, I know I've called you in the past on some things. You go, Rick, I'm sorry, I got to go drive now. I know probably all of you guys pitch in when you need to do it. And I just think that, I think one of you said it, maybe it was you, Casey, that when you do this kind of thing, where you treat them well, they are your recruiters. People want to, and Bill, I think the same thing with talking about having that special day where you're going to have games and do some things. Those are the things that are going to send people out to their friends and say, hey, look you've got nothing going on right now. Why don't you come and drive for us for a little while? And those are the best recruits. I want to go to a couple of quick questions or in the highlights. Mike, by the way, shared one thing about regarding the driver shortages. He said, we're seeing shortages all over. He goes, the last visit to one of my bus vendors found their break room was set up as a driver certification class, exclamation point. So just trying to make the most of every opportunity there. What else here? There was difficulty. This is Amanda. Oh man, sorry, I just lost my questions. But it sounds like the morale techniques that you guys are doing are working. Bill, how often do you have to fill in and drive?
Multiple times a week right now. We do the same thing that our local Channel 10 weather does. They have green days, yellow days, and red days. And we let the employees know that like it's a yellow day or it's a red day. They know when they see me out there driving, we've hit the bottom of the barrel, right? And it's a red day. So, but I'll tell you, I think that you talk about morale. I think it goes a long way towards morale when they look at the bus next to them and I'm sitting in it, and I'm out there doing it with them. I'm not asking them to do anything I wouldn't do myself,
That's it.
I enjoy it.
Anne Marie, by the way, gives you a shout out. Casey, I think referring to your story earlier about seeing a colleague who was had a car accident, said, "Good job, Casey. We need more people to recognize this type of compassion for their employees." Driver appreciation, Amanda talks about, they do the same thing. They have a driver appreciation week in April. Each school does something for something special for the drivers, and they create these appreciation certificates, which you would think that a certificate, does that really matter? And I've seen certificates in people's on people's walls, so it does matter. I was part of a foster care class. It was 10 classes, and if you gave a good question or you gave a good answer, you got a sticker. I'm 50 years old. Do I really need a sticker? Well, I wanted a sticker. So it is little things like that it is, and Tony always talks about gamifying things too. I don't know if you guys ever gamify things to, make it kind of fun as well. David, you look like you want to say something. I want to make sure I get you.
No, I was just agreeing with all this. I'm taking it all in because you continually hear, we're not paying enough, we're not paying enough. And in some cases, that's the case. I've in a situation where I can, people share with me a lot of information, and in some cases in our state, school bus drivers are not paid enough. But it really comes down to atmosphere and leadership, and do you run a well-oiled machine or is it chaos all the time? And does the leader take pride in his or her work and those kinds of things? How do you treat people? And I think if you read the literature, pay usually comes down 2 or 3 notches from the top. It's those other kinds of things that are important. So you're all just saying the kinds of things that I've heard before, and it's good to hear.
Michelle, share. Oh, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing that Dave made me think about. I had a driver the other day when I was talking to him, and he told me, he said, I don't know what it is about this year, but he said everything feels very calm and controlled. And he goes, we're in a pandemic. He goes, like last year, the year before, he goes, it seems like it's like a state of like there's chaos, there's so much going on, you can feel the stress and the tension. And he goes, now maybe you guys are feeling it in the office, but I'm telling you, from my driver's seat, it's calm, controlled, methodical. He goes, I like it. And we were just talking about that at a staff meeting, my office staff meeting, about why the people are feeling that. And I think it's because we suspended all of our courtesy services. It's like we're going by the book right now, with the exception of walking distance. We still transport what in New York would call non-eligible students. But as far as like going by a calendar or sharing, you ride this bus 2 days a week, that one 3 days a week, go to Aunt Judy's on Fridays, we thinned it all down, no guest riders, and it's very clean. And I think we took a lot of pressure off the drivers. And I just wanted to bring that up because that might be something we want to talk to our people about. If any of you have done the same type of thing, it's like, how much do we pile back on them coming out of this? You know, it makes a difference. Their job is better.
What do you take with you come September? And to your point, Bill, a lot of your people are doing this because they're trying to fill some gaps in their life, something to do, keep them busy. At what point is a person who's in that situation said, I really don't need this anymore? You know, I don't need to be taking trips every night. And I don't need to be, you know, doing 3 or 4 different runs because, you know, we're short of drivers. You have to take all that into consideration, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sean has a question for you, Casey, asking about what program are you using that logs all the data for your drivers' behaviors and driving styles?
Samsara is the GPS company that we use, and it handles all of that. There's an algorithm that they have. It builds in the time driven, the length of miles driven. Then you have different safety issues where it's excessively hard braking, excessive acceleration, and excessive G-forces. And the algorithm takes into account how much time driven and miles driven and number of events. I had a driver that was ranked #1, and she was all upset because the next day she dropped 12 ranks. And she comes in and talks to us and is like, what's going on? Why did I drop 12 spots? She had one harsh event and it dropped her 12 spots because of the number of miles that she was driving.
Wow.
But I mean, it has truly created that type of a competition with my employees because they see every day what their rank is and they want to be #1.
And it's not subjective. That's the beauty of it.
No.
You can just say, you know, it's the data. Sorry.
And we have truly had to look at other statistics in order to bring in what our employee of the month is going to be, because I had 18 drivers score a perfect driving score one month.
Wow.
And so now you have to bring in all these other parameters.
Casey, how do they see that, Casey? How do they watch their ranking? How do you work that?
So we have 2-way radios. It's a cell phone that's push to talk. That's our bus radio. And I upgraded it to where it was a full touch screen. So like an iPhone type thing. This is a Kia Sarah. And so that way it's truly a smartphone. It's Android based. It came preloaded with 2 apps. It came preloaded with our time clock app, and it came preloaded with Samsara. So the driver goes to log into the app and they do their pre-trip inspection on there. That assigns them to that bus. And so whenever they're out driving, any behavior that happens on that bus is now tied back to that student. We switched to Samsara specifically because of this. Our previous GPS provider, they would associate the driver behavior with the vehicle. Well, in a situation where you're short-staffed and you're doubling up or you're swapping buses because you have something down or whatever, and you have all of these substitutes going into the bus, I don't know who's driving it. I just know that's the behavior that happened on that bus. Well, now, since they're logging in, we know who is driving. And if you forget to log out and somebody else hops on, that's your fault. You didn't log out.
It sounds similar to like coach buses, when coach bus drivers have to log in and before they transport. That's great. That's good stuff.
Don't be surprised if you start finding people swapping someone's phone, peeling out of the parking lot, stopping hard, and then putting the phone. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's not what happens on the phone on the bus. The app is just on the bus that ties them in. And so you can throw you shouldn't, but you could throw the phone out the window whenever you're pulling out of the parking lot, and it's still going to track you as the driver of that bus.
I'm just trying to find a way to, navigate around this, but I'm just kidding.
That's a good system.
It sounds like a good system. And I'm sure Transfinder has equally amazing tools that could accomplish as well. I'd be remiss not to say that. Just to know that, again, we're hitting some good topics here. James made a reference to that they lost 18% of their staff when they shut down on March 16th, 2020, and they've gained just 5% back with new hires. So that's just to put that in some perspective. And then Michelle mentions that having our contractors deliver meals and curriculum with our teachers riding the buses along with them to help distribute these things gave teachers a whole new appreciation for our drivers. And she said it was a great morale boost for everyone involved. So that sounds like another great idea. Just, bringing, both parties together in those things. Okay, I want to move into, because we didn't touch on the budget situation. And I know that we're getting close to the end. It's 12/21, but the latest, basically the CARES Act 3, the Rescue Act, provides $1.9 trillion federal relief package, but $126 billion of that is for K-12 public schools. We don't really have time to get into a lot of detail, but it's significantly more than the first two bills. I know that New York State, didn't necessarily get much money in those first two. But what if you guys had we talked about this off camera earlier, a wish list of what if you could get access to some of these funds for your departments, what would you use that money for? So I'm just going to start with Casey, Jason, Bill, and David. You can kind of give us more statewide perspective on what you're hearing. And then I'm going to ask one last throwaway question. I'm going to bring Tony back on to close us out. But Casey, what would you do? How much funding would you like, and what would you do with it?
All of it. No. So I've shared this before. Because of some things that we do internally, we haven't really experienced a whole lot of budget crunches during this time, but we also didn't receive any of the first or second round of funding directly into my department. The school system provides PPEs for all of the employees, as well as the spares on the buses in case students show up without masks. The only thing that we've really had to worry about in our department is the cleaning and sanitizing materials. And it would be nice to have that offset, but we do utilize a lot of technology in our department. As a matter of fact, another shameless plug right quick, we are about to be implementing Stop Finder in our district. Awesome. We already use Trip Finder. We already use, we're switching over to Plus instead of Pro. I mean, we use a lot of, we have Viewfinder. Matter of fact, I had an employee come back from ACS and told me that I had to purchase Viewfinder. So we utilize a lot of technology, and I believe we have almost every single product that Transfinder has within our department. So awesome. About the only thing that we would use that money for, I believe, would be to offset the cost of the sanitizing and cleaning. We already have pretty much all of our needs met.
Awesome. Jason,
so
if Casey shares some of the money that he gets of the $126 billion, what would you do with it?
Okay, so since sharing is caring, I definitely have a wish list. One of the things we're doing, like in Casey, we are upgrading to Route Finder Plus. We're looking at the stop programs and the viewfinder programs. Hopefully we can pitch that further down the road, but right now we're not able to. We've been pretty lucky with our budget, for lack of a better phrase, because we've had our grounds keeping administration. That department has offset the cost of PPEs for us, okay, and also cleaning equipment. In terms of cleaning, immediately, I guess around the buses, outside of the buses. The buses are being cleaned by the contractor, so we're not worried about inside the bus or cost for that. So we've been pretty lucky in terms of those costs being offset. So our budget hasn't felt that crunch yet. We've just started sports in January, so we haven't had sports since September or even last summer. So, we didn't have summer school last summer. And so we haven't really had that budget crunch as of yet. We anticipate the worst, but we hope for the best. But we do have a wish list to add some more of the technology that Transfinder has to offer. We are getting plus.
One of the things that we heard in past webinars, and it's been consistent throughout in some of the interviews I've done as well, is that school boards and superintendents are very, what's the word, positive toward these kind of requests right now. There's like a window here where there's an understanding that we just got to give you the tools you need. So they're more apt to approve things. Maybe now this is the window. Bill, anything you want to add?
Yeah,
If there's any money left over from Casey and Jason and it trickles down to you.
A little bit that would be left over, I would look to be made whole on some of our additional costs that were unplanned costs that we incurred for labor, materials, supplies, equipment for cleaning, disinfecting. I mean, even as far as I switched everything over to microfiber cleaning towels because they're the best to use for this sort of cleaning. And so I had to buy a washing machine, I had to buy a dryer, and we had to have plumbing. So there's a lot of materials and supplies and equipment that we purchased. So we would hope to be made whole on that. And on my wish list would be student accountability, where the kids have like a RFI card and they get on the bus. And if I could see live data on who's on what bus. And it's not terrible for the drivers to do the attendance morning and afternoon, but it sure would be nice to have the kids just badging on and off, and I'd have real-time data on who's on what bus and when, and it would just take a little burden off of our staff.
That's great. That's great. David, anything else that you're hearing from districts?
I think all that stuff, all the pandemic-related costs certainly should be reimbursed. Because it's got to come from somewhere. Either you're not, paying your drivers enough, or you're not paying for parts, or you're not doing something because it's a finite amount of money. But certainly I try to throw a lot of it at the driver shortage issue. Let's find out why we've got this shortage issue. Pay them more money, more training, more ways, to attract drivers. I know Bill, Monroe County, you got that big push to do an advertisement to bring drivers in. Let's raise the awareness and get the word out, because that's really a highway safety issue. I mean, you need well-trained people out there doing this work today. It's not a part-time job that you just pick up because you're not farming in the winter.
That's right.
Now it's a profession, and find a way to attract more people to the industry.
And like Jason said, they're transporting our most precious cargo, so
Absolutely.
It's worth it. I'm going to ask Tony to come back on camera, and I want to just ask if you guys can give me brief, because we're getting close to the end here, but if you could give me one takeaway, one thing that anybody who's listening that that they would want to bring back to their superintendent, their school board, or their staff. What's one takeaway that you'd want them to bring back with them? I'm going to start with Casey again, go right down the line. Jason, Bill, David, and then Tony, if you could close us out, and then I'll say a couple of last words.
One of the things that I took away from this is that we need to continue thinking about what it is that we're going to do going forward, and continue to have that as at the forefront of our mind, because the pandemic is not going away. And I think, if anything, this has taught us that we need to be prepared for the things that we can't prepare for. And we need to constantly be thinking about what we can do to prepare for that.
Excellent. Excellent. Jason.
So since we do the impossible immediately, let's continue to support each other and build off of that.
Excellent. Now, what do you mean by the impossible immediately?
Well, we've already alluded to that multiple times about how we get the last minute changes, or changes in driver, or how we have to go on the road and drive at the last minute because somebody called out at 5 minutes to when their shift started, or things of that nature. So you have to answer the bell when, and when parents with their students, with their children, need us to do something. I even had last night, got a call late at night, a child didn't know how to get home. It was their first time in the district. So we had to make the exception to make sure we got that child home door to door, as opposed to a corner stop in the dark, because the child really did not know how to make their way home. So we do the impossible immediately.
I love it. I love it.
Good
Bill.
stuff. Yeah, I would say that we're not. I know early on in this thing, everybody was looking forward to going back to normal, and I don't know is that we have normal anymore. And we've kind of adopted the slogan in our district that we're not going back to normal. we're coming back stronger, right? There's going to be things different, and and that's what we've talked about it here is what do we take out of this with us and hold on to going forward. And it may have taken me years to get a student accountability or to upgrade a technology in my department, and now it's more doable than ever. So it's let's come back stronger. That's what we have to focus on better.
Great, David.
Always leave me for last, Rick, and all these profound ideas, and then I got to come up with something. I'm going back to Casey. I think we have to be thinking about the unthinkable and make sure that we're prepared for what we can prepare for. Certainly there's things that who would have ever thought of a pandemic that would affect our industry the way it has? But certainly we need to prepare for future pandemics and the one we're in now. And then yesterday we were on a TSA webinar listening to cybersecurity issues. Be thinking about that. What are some security issues with our IT that we need to be thinking about? And all these kinds of things that can affect our industry as an industry, we have to be thinking about these and find ways to deal with them, because we can't go through another year like this. The unprepared piece. Think about how you felt in the spring. So unprepared. A lot of people had great fear. And now think about how you're reacting now. People are dealing with this day in and day out, and they're doing it well. They're prepared for it. So I think that's what I take away.
That's good. Tony, what do you got?
Well, I think my biggest takeaway is how we always talk about as being leaders and how you treat employees and how they feel. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, is that no matter what industry you're in, you always got to take care of your employees. I always said that, you got to take care of your employees, great, because if not, someone else will. So I think that's my biggest takeaway. So thank you for bringing that out. Bill, by the way, these cards, I got the cards for you already. So if you need the cards, I got the logo. So I'm ready to print. Tell me, right? So I got a card. So you just tell me when you want that. And Casey, trust me, there's things they didn't buy everything from us. So we'll figure that out. But listen, again, biggest takeaway, treat employees the way you want to be treated, because that is the best way to do it. All right.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And that is, I can speak.
So Cougar Paw, I have to say, it's Cougars, right? But it's a palm.
That's right.
All right.
That's our logo.
I know. Did that
He just
really?
printed it out. He's in his car. He's on his way.
I did this really fast. If you notice, I printed it, I folded it. It's like, all right, it's quick, right?
That's awesome. Awesome.
Thank you for the great discussion, everybody. Thank you.
I did. I want to thank everybody. Again, Casey, Bill, Jason, David, always great to hear from you. Tony always has something to say that's relevant, a takeaway from me. I want to encourage everybody, if you have a story, any story, whether you're a transferring client or a future client, as I like to call them, please send us your stories of how you're using technology or how you've adapted. We've heard so many comments in our comment section here, and there's a lot of those. We want to put these together in white papers or just post them on social media, let people share ideas of how they're doing, what they're doing to maybe keep drivers morale up, get more drivers to come in, whatever it may be. You guys are the experts, we know that. We're still finalizing the date for next month's webinar, so stay tuned for that, but we will have one in April. If you have a topic that you haven't seen, if there's something you want us to go a little bit deeper on too, please send, again, a note to mystory@transfinder.com, and we'll add it to the list, because we want to make sure that we're hitting all the nerves that you guys are dealing with. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks again, panelists. Thanks for all of our attendees for staying on, and we'll see you next month.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.